And that sound means that we are live on the air. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. Another edition of Progressive Parenting Network's um, all all manner of shows that we're doing. We're doing a number of them. We're not sticking to just one type of format. And this is my very, very sleepy baby Jack. He's going to pass out any second now. Maybe that's it. Oh. My plan is to bore him to death, so hopefully I won't do the same to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Tonight my guests are Joe Valley and Andrea Valley, and they're joining us live tonight from Missouri. And I'm going to be talking to them tonight about breastfeeding. It has been coming up a lot in the news lately. It is a hot topic, which is kind of crazy because we've been breastfeeding since we've been on the planet as human beings because we're mammals, right? And all mammals feed from the breast. So why is it such a hot topic? And why is it coming up so much right now? So I think we need to talk about it. And the reason I have these two wonderful people on the program, Joe Valley of Empowered Papa, who happens to be married to an amazing woman who happened to be asked to stop breastfeeding in public and called him up to, one, probably help her get her stuff out of the place that she was at and come and talk. And I want to talk more about that. Andrea wasn't there, so I have no idea what was going on in your mind. I know I would have called any one of my best friends, especially my best friend Craig, my husband, to come and back me up and get me the heck out of there because I want him to keep me from setting the place on fire. So let's talk about this. Thank you for joining us. Hey, emotions can run high when you get those hormones pumping, and people, any kind of confrontational setting can kind of get you. I get very shaky, and my voice shakes, and I sound like I'm about to cry, and I don't want to sound that way. I want to sound very in control of myself and say the feelings that I want to articulate them, and I can't. And so anyways, I know that feeling. I don't know if that's the feeling you had, but that's the one I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
So, before we get into the whole breastfeeding, like in general, can you share with us what recently happened to you?
Yeah, so last Wednesday I was at this community center pool, which is funny because I don't really ever go to this community center. I just went with my mom and my other son who's 5 and my baby, and we were going to go to just like the normal pool, but it was closed early because pool, early, summer, whatever. So we said, well, let's go next door. They have an indoor pool. So we go there, and I'm there, and I'm feeding Kai for, he's 8 months, so, just kind of like every off and on for about an hour. And he started getting, okay, I could tell he needed a nap, so I was feeding him, and, he was kind of doing this, like, nurse a bit, pop off, look around, nurse a bit, pop off, look around, and so I'm kind of working it, right? And there's a bit of rocking and a bit of this and a bit of covering the face, and I think if anybody who was a breastfeeding mom would have seen me, they would have been like, "Whoa, okay, I got you. You're good. Just keep it calm in here," sort of thing. And so then, anyway, he's almost asleep, and then the lifeguard came over to me and said, "If you're gonna breastfeed in here, could you go to the changing room?" And I said, "No." And then I saw him kind of go, and he motions to this towel that's sitting right next to me, and he says, "Do you have a towel you could use to cover up?" And I said, "No." And then I think at that point his brain might have exploded a little bit because he looked really confused, and then he said, and I said, "You should probably go get your manager now." So I'm like whispering, right, because the baby's almost asleep. Like, "You should probably get your manager now." And he's like, yeah, I'm going to go get my manager because, it's going to be my manager's call. And I'm thinking, no. But, okay, go get him. So then the manager comes over and he says to me, "Well, we do ask people to leave, to go to the changing room, because some people do get offended." And so I said, "Oh, okay, all right, well, has somebody complained?" And he said, no one's complained, but they might. Someone might complain. Someone might come in and see you. So, I think at this point it'd be good to explain that, it's an indoor pool. It's pretty dark in there. There's like mom with a group of couple kids, pregnant mom with a group of couple kids, nobody else in the entire pool area. Some people were kind of walking through the edge of the pool area to go to the lap pool. And I guess those were the people he was thinking were going to come in and be offended from, way on the other side of the room. So I said, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to move, so you might want to go get someone else to talk to me about this.
Round 3.
Because I just kept thinking, well, we'll just keep going up. We'll go up and up and up, and eventually I'll get someone who goes, oh, wait, this is against the law. We shouldn't be doing this. But I wasn't also completely sure because I know there are laws. I didn't exactly know what the one was like in Missouri. So he said, okay, well, I'm going to go get my manager, but probably we're going to get you to move. I didn't really know what that meant. And I at that point, I got really nervous because I thought, we're going to get you to move means what? Like, we're going to call the police or we're going to what? I don't even know. So, I was really nervous. I was really just shaking and uncomfortable and not really breathing. But,
It's okay. I'll take him. I have.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
If you breastfeed, though, I'll ask you to stop. I feel.
People watching might be offended, so I'm just gonna put a cover over.
For the whole screen, that would be great if you could just do that for the rest of the interview.
Mm-hmm. Little one.
Okay. Hold on 1 second, and we can keep talking. Yeah. So much fun. Yes. He's a flailer. Like, good luck keeping a cover on this guy. He's just.
Oh yeah.
He's like an angry nurser.
It's like putting a cover on an octopus.
Yeah.
Forget it.
So I'm sorry. Keep going. I was listening.
Okay. So then he left, and then when he left, I picked up my phone and Googled Missouri breastfeeding law. Saw that there was one. Thought, okay, I'm good. They're not going to call the police, or if they do, it's going to be because I called them for them harassing me. So I thought, okay, it's going to be fine. But I realized when I picked up my phone that I was like texting, and I was like texting my husband. I was like, oh, I can't make it stop shaking. It was just like the adrenaline was incredible. Even though I know it's okay. Even though I know that Siri's talking to me. Even though I know it's okay. Even though I know that I wasn't doing anything wrong. There's just this feeling that happens like, oh no. All of a sudden you have this adrenaline rush. And I'm thinking, people, I'm trying to get the baby to sleep. Let's don't do this right now. Anyway, so then he fell asleep and they left me alone. Joe got there and he went and talked to them. They came back and said to me later, we're really sorry. We didn't mean to offend you. We didn't know it was a law. I said, I looked it up like 3 seconds after you left. So, and you think, okay, it's been a law since 1999. So saying we didn't
breastfeeding
is a bit silly. I think if the lifeguard, clearly the lifeguard didn't know anything, which is why I was immediately like, please go get your manager. But, I think then the onus would have been on the manager to say, oh, I'm sorry. There is a law protecting you. You can do whatever you like, breastfeeding-wise. You're welcome here, whatever. So, because didn't they say in the news report that they got some sort of breastfeeding excellence award?
For workplace breastfeeding friendliness.
Right. So,
Right.
Anyway. But they said that they didn't know, and so then they called back the next day and said they were very sorry and that they were going to do trainings now.
Right. When you say that he apologized that he didn't know it was a law, we left that place still, they left it as, well, we don't know. So
yeah, we're looking into it.
This is what we do, and I'm sorry we had to say that to you.
Because people might get offended.
Because people might
get
offended.
What do you say? This is a public place. We have to
I
make sure that...
I don't know about the law, but this is a public place.
I don't know about the law, but...
But this is a public place, and I was like, wait, this is...
Did you just say that? I think you just said that.
This is a public place.
Did he say that? He said
this is a community center. This is a family community center. Yes, it's a public place, but,
that doesn't mean
I'm doing something wrong because it's in public. I mean, that was kind of the whole thing. It was like, well, some people do get offended Like,
That's why we're asking you to not breastfeed.
To change everything you're doing, and even though you're sitting over here in a mostly dark room that's mostly empty, could you be? Oh,
we don't want to offend anyone.
They wanted me to go to this changing room that we went to on our way out so we could change Sasha, and it was like a thoroughfare of men walking to the lap pool
with briefcases and like
I was like, yeah, that would have been comfy for everybody. Hi, just the breastfeeding mom in the hallway.
There's like a concrete bench.
It was so stupid.
It's like, okay, here, take this comfortable chair in the corner of the pool room.
That's dark.
And no one's around you.
Now
and
go
move
sit
to a thoroughfare where there are a bunch of men walking
and
by
fluorescent
on
lights.
a concrete slab. That sounds good, right? You should do that, because we don't want anyone to get offended. And I laugh about this because these guys kept stumbling over themselves. Their own adrenaline was pumping. And they kept going back to this idea of not wanting to offend anyone. And, I can't necessarily get really angry about them because they weren't aggressive with me. However, everything they said was absolutely insane.
Yeah. And so subtly shameful.
And, yeah, I mean, you can say, in the nicest tone possible, but what you're doing is saying what you're doing is wrong, and it's kind of gross and people don't like it.
Yeah, if you're going to do it...
If you could do us a favor and just,
Yeah, it was like, could you just...
go there and not be so disgusting?
Yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you. Thank you.
And he kind of said something like, oh, I don't have a problem with it, but some people do get offended. I was like, ew. Yeah. Well, you should probably look the other way. I don't know.
Let's talk about that. I want to talk about this. This is my big deal, and you guys are the people that I can talk to it about, and I've been talking a lot about this lately. So, here I am in my 41st year on the planet, and I've been trying so hard to be a better person, right? And the other day, I went...
It's not working.
It's just so hard.
It's just not working.
I went against it so hard. I just did a 180 on myself. I swear to God, the day before I was on Guy MTV, watching this whole thing about, and I've been practicing it over and over about, I am. It's you look at somebody else and you're like, I am that person. Some guy, cuts me off, and instead of going, man, screw that guy, I'm like, no, I'm that guy. I'm just like that guy, right? And I'm trying to be this person. And then this thing comes up about anthropology, where this woman got asked to leave anthropology for breastfeeding, right? So I make the mistake of going on anthropology's wall and see all of these comments about breastfeeding, and I lose my shit. I lose it. I am no longer the I am Gina Kirby. I turn into this maniac going off on people. I called somebody an elitist. I mean, I called people names. I called her an elitist, and what else did I call her? I'm not proud of this. I'm just sharing this with you because I'm fully ashamed of myself for losing my crap on people. She was like, well, if you can afford to go to anthropology, then you can go out to your car, your air-conditioned car, and nurse your baby there.
How does that have anything to do with anything?
Yeah, so, I was like, well, you're an elitist butthead, I didn't call her butthead, but I did say elitist and classist. I said, you're elitist and classist. You're not thinking about people who maybe took a bus there, because you guys know me, Craig and I lived here in Austin for 2 years without a car. We took a bus everywhere, we didn't have a car. We just didn't have it in our budget, but we still bought clothes and did things and went out in public.
Yeah.
But I lost my stuff on this poor woman who, by the way, if she would have called me to be her doula, I'd have been her doula. If she would have called me because she had breastfeeding needs, I'd have been there for her. If she would have dropped her groceries in front of a store, I would have ran to pick them up, right? I wouldn't have been a total dick to her like I was on Facebook. What is it about this that gets us all freaked out? I mean, I'm really embarrassed. I can't remember her name. I do remember there was another lady named Iris, because I used her name a couple of times. So Iris, if you're watching, I'm really sorry. That was totally out of hand for me to be like that.
Well, I think we experienced some of that, with the comments that come through. There were a couple of type erase, backspace, breathe moments. We're like, okay.
Walk away.
I'm going to walk away and breathe this one out for a minute and come back and try and just say something funny, I think to answer your question, why do we get all bent out of shape about it? I think it's because, for me, I get bent out of shape about it because I don't like other people finding excuses to regulate me.
Because what it means is you are not good.
Well, you're like less worthy, you know. I mean, like the one guy that I was going to having conversation with, you know, he was like, "Well, do it, but just
Larry.
but just do it less like this, or do it more over here, or do it this way. I support breastfeeding, but blah blah blah.
Just be careful.
Just be careful." You know, I said, "Larry, it's not my job to be careful. It's my job to feed my baby. It's my job to tend to his needs, and it's not my job to walk through my entire life thinking, will I offend this person? Will I offend that person?" I mean, the thing that kind of gets missed is like, well, you know, somehow if we say I'm offended, that therefore means that everybody in our path has to change whatever they're doing to suit us. And, you know, I don't like booty shorts on girls. I don't like how they look. I don't want to see your ass cheeks hanging out. It's not what I like to see. Yet, I don't get to go up to every single one and say, you're bad, you're less, you have to wear the shorts that I say you have to wear because I'm moral, or I'm religious, or I'm whatever. I'm offended. It's like, what does it even mean, I'm offended? It's just
I love that you said that. I love that you said it because the other day, Ava and I got in a fight. My 11-year-old. We were at the mall, and like the waves of girls are walking by because it's crazy hot here in Austin. They're wearing short shorts, and they're wearing the shorts with the pockets that hang out the front. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The shorts with the pockets hang out. And I was like, "What is this about?" Right? I lose my mind, and I feel like I can tell Ava about it. And I'm like, I know it's hot.
Yeah.
So I was really upset, and she goes, "You sound really judgy."
Oh, snap.
Darn it. It's like, well, you're right. I am being very judgmental because I just don't think that, you know, 12 and 14-year-old girls should have their butt hanging out of the back and their pockets hanging out of the front. That was my thing.
Right?
I'm not going to go over to a young lady and tell her that she's making me feel uncomfortable. That's my own deal to deal with. And I have to think about it. Like, why does that bother me? So I want to get to that. When somebody says something about sexualization of breasts, like when they say, I don't want to see her boob hanging out, I don't want to see her nipple, is what they're really saying, it makes me feel uncomfortable when.
Yeah. Or you're in control of my emotions. So you do what I say so that I only have to feel this certain range of emotions because I've been completely culturalized to think a certain thing about your nipple, therefore act this way only with your nipple because when you act this other way, I feel this thing, I don't like it, change it.
Right. So that's what's really being said. So is it really, though, like that's the thing, like I actually called somebody on that thread. Again, I am not proud of this. I really wish it never happened because I don't want to be that person. But I was like, it was like the Saturday Night Live, like, Jane, you ignorant slut. I didn't say that, but I called somebody ignorant. But that's a lot, right? I'm calling people names. I'm like, I'm upset. I'm like, oh, you're
trying to figure out, like, why do you get so wound up about it?
Well, and why did they get so wound up about it, too? Like, that's my whole thing. Why am I getting mad at somebody because they have a hang-up about something? You know, if a woman comes to me as a breastfeeding counselor and says, I feel very anxious about breastfeeding, or I feel, you know, sometimes when my baby nurses, it feels pleasurable, and that makes me feel gross. Do I tell her, you're so ignorant, like you don't know anything, or do I tell her, hey, you know what, that happens to a lot of people, and that's normal, and this is why, and do I, like, take the time to explain things to her? Yes, of course I do. But if same person, faceless person on Facebook types, I don't like it when I can see somebody's nipple, I'm like, well, you're an ignorant idiot.
But that's, I mean, that's so much about that, you know, it's like the same thing that happens when we drive in cars, right? I mean, you're driving in a car, someone does something, you're like, blah, 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 blah. Now imagine yourself walking right behind that person. You would never be like, blah, blah, blah. Some people would. Most people wouldn't.
Most people wouldn't.
Right? Most people wouldn't be like, blah, 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 blah. You know, they'd say, oh, this person's kind of going slow. I might walk around, or excuse me, or they might just, you know, mutter under their breath. But it's like something about that distance of the car, right? Gives us feeling like we can just bleh. And I think Facebook is the same, or anything online. It's like I'm here in my room, so I can just explode out into the world with whatever I feel like saying in the moment, such as is it okay what did he say? If basically if we let women do whatever they want with their nipples, will they start stirring their drinks with them? Or,
oh yeah, I saw that with the sandcastle.
Or will they make
sandcastle guy?
Sandcastle guy.
Mo.
Okay, so all I have to say about that is like, is there some serious like sexual repressed fantasies going on? That's what it sounds like to me.
Tickling his fancy.
You know, it's like, okay, so maybe some women would do that, but let's stay on topic here. I'm talking about feeding babies, not stirring our drinks with our nipples.
So a lot of those conversations will go to like the slippery slope thing.
Right, Joe said that. He's like, it's not a slippery slope. If we let women do whatever they want with their bodies, let being obviously a silly thing to say, but if we let women do whatever they want with their bodies, then they're going to start stirring their drinks with their nipples.
Well,
whoa, dude. See, I don't even know what to say.
That's when the breastfeeding conversation departs from the rights of the mother to, it's not a depart, but more grows to the rights of a baby. Yeah. You know, yes, a woman decides in every moment what her breasts mean, whether it's for sexual stimulation, you know, attracting the allure, the attention of other people, or it's to feed her baby. You know, she decides that, right? And so that was where that conversation on that thread was going. It was basically, you know, if we let women decide what their breasts mean, does that mean then women decide what their vaginas mean and they can expose their vaginas in public?
Oh no, women decide what their vaginas mean.
Oh, okay. Let's even let's
what will we do? What will happen to the world?
So in my response to him is, well, it's about, you know, the needs of the baby, right? Never, forget the fact that breasts are secondary sex characteristics, and as opposed, you know, to genitals.
Right.
Men aren't allowed to expose their penises, but they are allowed to expose their nipples. So, you know, let's stay on topic here, guys. You know, you know, someone else compared.
Oh, is it okay for me to crap in public?
You know, crapping is natural, but I do that in private. It's like, you know, you're comparing food to shit, okay, excrement. You know, you can't have that conversation. You cannot compare these things.
Because it doesn't make any sense.
It's not an appropriate comparison.
No.
And I think people just get their, you know, feathers.
But where is it coming from, though? That's what I want to know. It's a ridiculous argument. Yes, this person probably never took debate in high school. Okay, if they're going to excrement to
maybe did not take anatomy.
Right? Most likely.
English, because subject-verb agreement on all these comments
not high
is poor.
on that. Yeah.
Okay, but wait.
Okay, I'm sorry. Tell us your idea.
That's not an idea. It's a question. It's like, okay, so let's just say maybe they never took debate. That's not their strong suit. But in their mind, they're like, well, you're saying this is normal and this is normal. Yeah. So this is what I think. But at the end of the day, none of those things are like camouflage for breasts make me feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I feel maybe titillated by them, and when you're putting it in a baby's mouth, I feel confused. So please make me feel these feelings, and I will say whatever I need to try to make you stop making me feel this way.
Yeah.
Right? Is that what it is?
That's the exact thing, because breast can mean two things, and our culture has hit us over the head with the one meaning.
Yeah.
And breastfeeding has been subverted in our culture. You know, you look at the marketing campaigns of formula and the shaming of women for breastfeeding. So now it's coming back. You know, it's not so shoved under the carpet. There are many women saying, "This is what I'm doing," like Andrea did. And so now the culture has to change. It has to shift. There's going to be some bumps in the road. There's going to be some people that are like, hey, wait a minute. There's going to be some totally, perfectly, naturally fine, amazing families that are feeling uncomfortable and encountering an awkward emotion when the adolescent boy sees the nipple of a mom who's breastfeeding, because the culture has said the breast is sexual. So the mom doesn't, let's say a conservative Christian family, you know, the mom doesn't want the son exposed to something that means dirty, right? And it's not that their values are wrong, it's that there are two meanings for the breast happening at the same time. And I think what Andrea and I are saying in our recent campaign is, just because the teenager has this meaning about breasts and this awkward feeling when the breast is exposed in breastfeeding does not therefore mean that the mom needs to cover up. It means that a culture in general has to shift the idea of what the breast means to them. It can mean food for a baby, and that it's not gross, it's not sexual. It's food for them.
Yeah, okay. Beautifully said. And I agree 100%. And I do feel like this shift is coming. It's coming, and that's why you got like a cajillion hits on what you wrote, because I think the biggest part of it was what Craig and I were talking about it, as men aren't talking about it. And here we have this dad, husband, father, you know, you wrote this thing about breastfeeding, and you don't see a lot of men talking about it, and I think that's why it was such a huge thing. When Craig was like, yeah, but where's like, Andrea needs to like get something for being like, no. I mean, do you know how many women have been asked, like, can you move somewhere else? They feel ashamed, they feel all of these feelings, and then they comply. And I love that you had the guts to stand up for yourself, and not just for yourself, but for your right to nurture your baby. And that's the thing I was going to get to next. Breastfeeding is not just a means to get food into someone, because people say, why don't you just bottle? Like, why don't you pump and bring a bottle? Breastfeeding isn't about feeding your baby only. You're nurturing your baby.
Which is the whole covering up everything argument, which is what I went into in detail on my Facebook page. I said, I'm not going to cover up, even if in that moment I could have. I'm not going to cover up, because eye contact is important, because I'm checking in with my baby all the time, because it stresses him to put a cover on him, and then he turns into a nursing octopus, and he becomes really stressed. We've got to start all over again, because the idea was to calm him down, and I'm just not going to do that. That's not going to happen, because that's basically saying, okay, well, feed your baby, it's okay, but, you know, do it under this thing, and you know, which brings up the idea that, you know, other generations need to see it. Everybody needs to see it. I didn't ever see anybody breastfeed until I saw my sister do it. I was an adult, you know. I didn't grow up with it, and I definitely, I mean, I had to take a damn class. I had no idea about how to do it. You know, that's crazy. Great that there was one available, but a little bit crazy. So, you know, the lady asked me today, the Fox News lady said, well, you know, were you being discreet? And I said, well,
what does that mean? You guys froze
discretion only whether or not the mom wants to be discreet. How discreet the mom feels to be. That's the only time it comes in my opinion.
Well, it's a funny word, like the question too, like, and again, we're getting back to the times I hear this a lot. I support breastfeeding if, or but, as long as you're being discreet. But what does that even mean anyway? It's like I support women as long as they don't wear short shorts that reveal their butt and their pockets. Like, where does my support of women end?
Right.
You know?
Right. I mean, it's one thing to say, okay, I don't like booty shorts. I don't like them because I would feel uncomfortable wearing them. But, you know, for me to say, like, now all women who wear them are this kind of woman, or, you know, teens are acting like this if they do it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's not my preference. I don't like it. But
yeah, you could say that, you know, the short shorts with the pockets sticking out has meant for a long time sex appeal. You know, when a woman wears the shorts where the pockets actually hang lower than the shorts, it means I'm willing to go so short you can actually see the insides of my shorts, which is a sexual thing, right? So maybe these moms whose daughters are wearing the shorts are saying, it's cute. It doesn't mean,
the
my
same
daughter
thing.
is going to go whore around. It's cute. Look how cute it is.
It could mean whatever to them.
I'm just shooting from the hip here. I never thought
Yeah.
about this before.
No. That's, well, look at my 11-year-old, who I'm assuming has never had sex before. I'm pretty positive, but you know, people be like, yeah, you don't know. But here's my little 11-year-old who, she looks at this as a fashion statement.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, Mom, I really don't see what your problem is, and I'm not in the mood. I don't have like the mental capacity right now with a brand new baby to even go there with her about what this means to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it though. I do see why some people who have some reservations about things, and I don't want to say hang-ups because that's not the right word, but
You want to get in there and figure out what that's about.
I think
it means to me when something makes me feel uncomfortable, and am I ready to talk to my kids about it, and is that why I'm going to go on Facebook and road rage on somebody? I don't know.
I think there are two things at play. I think there's the whole thing, like, you know, we've been taught by our culture this certain thing, and it's been reinforced so many times that we may not even question it. So there's that. And that may be happening just through the media, but it may also be happening through, you know, your church or your religion or your family or, you know, all these different ways. So it's super, super, super reinforced that women's breasts should not be out in public or anytime that I can see them, because that's not good, right? So there's that. Then on the other part of it is like this great gross misunderstanding of how emotions work and whose responsibility it is to deal with them, right? Which is like kind of ties into Joe's whole thing with NVC and, you know, with empathy and stuff. It's like, what you're doing is making me feel something.
Breasts make me feel.
And I don't want to feel that, so change. Responsibility out, because as soon as this changes, then I won't feel that anymore.
The Fox News lady, how did it make you feel?
How did it make you feel?
That's
right, it's all about make you feel, and it's that language, it's that idea that says...
the world just can do whatever it wants, and you're at the whims of it.
Right, instead of, okay, when I see that, I feel uncomfortable because I've been socialized to think this certain way, or because my religion tells me that's not right, or because my family... you know, brought me up this way. If I say it in that way, I'm saying I'm taking responsibility for that. And so then I can say, okay, I'm not comfortable with that, but I also have a neck attached to my head, and I can go like this and be over here. Or I can walk away. I don't have to stay right here and say, change, so I don't feel this. So I think those two things are going on at the same time.
Desperate, you know, for the women that are saying, I cover up and you should too, or, you know, I don't want my son to see the nipple in public. I think that's an unsustainable attempt to get need for safety met. You know, if I can control the world around me by telling women to behave in a certain way, then I won't have to explain to my son about the breast exposure, or I won't have to try to protect him, or I won't have to look at what it's like, why I'm having this emotional state of awkwardness.
Well, I have a question. In the thing that you wrote, you said that when I was at your house, I had brought something up. I forgot about that. It wasn't a thing.
You're talking about you're tired when you were saying you were tired that men could take their shirts off, but women couldn't?
Yeah, I don't even remember saying that. I swear.
You were pregnant and, like, barfing constantly, though. I mean, I don't remember anything I've ever said when I'm pregnant and barfing. He tells me, you know, that happened. I'm like, whatever. I've got, like, 9 months of blank, so.
I don't remember saying it, but I have had this conversation with Ava because Craig was walking around one day, you know, in his trunks, and that's it. And she said, she asked him, she said, why can you go outside in just your shorts and Mom can't?
Good question.
That was the first time I was like, you answer this, Craig. He goes, I don't know, people are crazy. He's like, it's just with women's breasts, like in our culture, people lose their mind. He goes, but there's other cultures, and we got on YouTube and showed her cultures where women can walk around without any clothes on, and
It's called
doesn't fall.
at the beach.
Well, and people don't lose their minds. No, it's like where it's a constant state. We showed her a culture where women just are always topless all the time, and so are the men, and it's not the end of the world, and it's not like it's a boob is like an elbow, is like a nose, is like an eyebrow.
Right.
And I said, it's just in our particular culture. Isn't that interesting? And she said, so people, if everybody believes one thing, that's just what's true. And it's like, yeah, it's such an Ava thing to say, right? And I was like, yeah. She's like, so people could all just live somewhere and believe something crazy, and then that's what's true? I said, yeah. And she's like, wow, that's scary.
Right. And one of the comments that I got was from this character, Larry, was like, well, this is the culture that you live in, so it's your responsibility to cover up. And I said, I don't believe that, and I don't want to live my life that way. I don't want to be that kind of person that says, oh, well, this is the expectation of me, even though it feels totally wrong and I'm not doing anything wrong, and now I feel shamed and I'll just walk around with that. It's like, no, cut. That's not how I'm going to live my life, because I don't believe that there really is any difference between a female breast and a male breast. And like, have you seen that photo series of there is a white woman going to some African village, and she arrives with her shirt on? Have you seen that? She arrives with her shirt on, and they all have no shirts on because they're African village people. And she then over the next few photos, she's taking off her shirt and taking off her bra, and they're like, oh! They just get right up in there. Like, let's feel those. Those are perky. Because theirs have never been in a bra, and they're kind of down here, and hers are way up here, and there's just this, beautiful connection going on between them as a group. And so I think about that a lot. I think about my foreign exchange student that lived with us when I was 17. She was from France. She had a picture on her wall of her and her mom and her dad on a boat, and they were all topless. And I remember thinking, oh, that's weird. And she said, what? What's weird? What's the problem? It was like her family photo.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's that what he said though about how like this is the culture you live in and these are the rules that we live by. It sounds very culty. Like here's the cult that you are in, and this is how we live here in our cult, and you need to abide by things.
Yeah.
Which it's this institutionalization thing, like this is how we do things in this one place, and a lot of it has to do with how we've all been raised. Like you have to raise your hand to go to the bathroom. It's all of these things that you need to follow the rules. You should not be free thinking. You should not be doing what you will for the betterment of your family or your baby. You need to go by these rules. Because we live in this slash society, and this what comes before the slash is, you said the word earlier, and nobody really says it a lot, shame. My friend Nicole Shapiro is doing some really amazing stuff, and she has this thing called Raising Children Without Sexual Shame. And the first time I heard it, I lost my mind. I was like, oh, tell me more about that. So many of us are brought up in a culture of sexual shame. And I think that's what Larry was saying. You live in a culture of sexual shame. You need to abide by these rules.
Abide by these rules because this is how it is.
Because of the shame. And I just, Craig and I just got back from a trip to New Orleans, and I had to nurse for the first time. Our baby Jack is going to be 4 months old on the 7th. So this will be my first time going into the public with a baby he's a violent nurser. Like he gets on the breast and he pulls and he flails and screams, and it's very difficult, very stressful for me. And as much as I am a proponent for nursing in public, women have the right to nurse in public. They shouldn't have to cover up if they don't want to. I do. I cover up. It's my thing. I was brought up with a lot of sexual shame. I'm working through all this stuff. I'm willing to tell this in public. So I cover up. It's my thing. And I can't with this baby. He fights me, and it's just awful. And I had to nurse him on airplanes and airports and restaurants. And I I was personally mortified because I was afraid of confrontation. I was afraid that some person's going to come up to me and tell me, you can't do this here. And I'm getting to something, I promise. On Facebook, what I saw, what drove me the most crazy, it's because I was fearful of this. It came from a place of fear. That's where a lot of anger comes from, or all anger comes from fear. And I was afraid that somebody was going to ask me to stay home. And that's what I saw on Facebook. Like, why are you even out in public? Why don't you just nurse your baby at home? And what got me mad, and when I went off on that poor woman who doesn't know me and who I could probably be best friends with if we never had this conversation before, was, you're asking me to stay at home, to be isolated, to not have interaction with other people. Like, that was a place that I was afraid of to have to address. Like, please don't ask me to hide. Please don't ask me to stay at home and not be free to go out and talk to people and have conversations. Please don't do that to me. And it never
isolating enough, you know.
Yeah, it's isolating enough, and I didn't have it. In the airport, Jack started crying and fussing, and of course, 150 people are looking at me, and I just ran up to the nearest wall and I sat down and I hunkered down and I tried to get as private as I could, and I nursed him, and this woman offered me her jacket, and I kind of got mad at first, like, oh, she just wants me to cover up, but I think she saw my body language. She saw that I was kind of trying to be private, and so she was just trying to help. And I said, thank you so much. And she said, oh, I nursed all my kids. She said, people can be so stupid. I think she was just trying to protect me from other people.
Yeah.
Because that's what she had to deal with. And the gentleman next to me, he said, that's so nice to see. And it made me feel so good. And I didn't get asked to not nurse on the plane or anything, and it was wonderful. But the feeling that I had, I think that's where it came from. This fear made me angry when people on Facebook were saying, why don't you pump? Like, and pumping is impossible for me. I make this much milk. If I pump, my kid will starve. Like, you don't know what you're asking me. And I don't think that you're asking me any of these things because you're an ugly, awful, horrible, ignorant person. I think you don't know. Well, ignorance is not knowing, but you don't know. You don't know that you're hurting me. You don't know that you're making me feel isolated. You don't understand how breastfeeding works. You don't understand that if I pump a lot, I'm going to make a ton more milk than I can actually give to my tongue-tied baby, and it'll be painful, and it could mean the end of breastfeeding for me. You don't know any of those things, so you're saying what you're saying.
Well,
how do we meet these people in a peaceful way?
I think something you said is really true, that people don't know. Many people don't know anything about breastfeeding.
I'm still learning. It's going to be my 8th year breastfeeding. I'm still learning.
The mechanics of it, the emotions of it, the hormones of it, they don't know anything about it. And it's so easy to just throw out a comment to say, hey, do it like this. Why don't you? Because it was easy for me. It's like, well, I'm not you. Sweetheart, I'm just not. I got these kind of issues, and I'm this kind of person, and maybe I'm introverted, or maybe I'm extroverted, or maybe I have these issues, and it's just so many opportunities for connection are missed in that kind of a situation because it's just easier somehow to throw out these demands.
So that's my question, and to both of you. It's like, how do we do this? Because I just saw this great TED Talk with this beautiful woman, and I feel terrible that I can't remember her name. I really wanted to have it ready on the tip of my tongue for this talk, but she gave a TED Talk, and it was about how meeting people where they are and finding out what our common ground is. Her talk was about how she's this environmentalist, but she made friends with this man who was a hunter, and she described how she found this common ground with him. How do we find common ground with people who are telling us that we are doing things wrong, that we should be ashamed, that we should cover up? You did say something just now, Andrea, that touched me, where you said somebody was like, well, I managed to do this. You're like, I nursed all my kids covering them. Why can't you? And you're like, well, I'm not you. And so how do we find common ground with folks who are saying things like this? How do we find that common ground? Well, I don't want to go about It's like Alice in Wonderland, where she's like, I don't want to go among mad people, but I turn into mad people. I turn into this crazy person. I don't want to be a crazy person anymore. I don't want to get mad at random people who cut me off in traffic. I don't want to take everything personally anymore. It takes up too much.
No, that's definitely not healthy.
Yeah. So how do I not road rage on Facebook? Because that's all Facebook is just road raging without a car. So how do I do it? How can we do it? You guys have handled this with such aplomb and grace. You really have.
I can hear the overwhelm and confusion when you're talking about this. Like, there's maybe even a sense of futility that there can be anything done in these moments when someone says to you, blah, 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 when you're trying really hard to breastfeed your baby and it's interrupting and it's asking you to not be yourself and to not be social. I mean, I can hear you're saying, like, but how can we meet that in a way that addresses that we're all connected and we're unified and we, you know, in a way that's respectful, in a way that, you know, it instills harmony, right? You want to find this harmonious action. I think what I'm going to say next is a little depressing. I mean, you can only go 50%. Someone else has 50%. You can only say your piece. You can only say what's important for you. You can't make another person respond in a certain way. And in this situation, Andrea was the person who was told, you have to change. And she said, I'm not going to do that. And you know, it's in that situation, it's not Andrea's job then to, you know, to make educate or you know, like, work to make them get it or to feel comfortable with this situation. That's an unreasonable expectation of that one person's 50%.
Yeah. I think
I'm glad you said that. No, go ahead, Andrea.
There are, you know, like I just saw when the 2 news spots that we did, they went up and someone said on a group that I'm on, oh, the comments are pretty hideous. And I just wrote, you know, I won't be reading those comments.
Yeah, please don't.
You know, sometimes you just have to say, I'm going to filter that because I'm saying to myself, okay, who watches Fox News and comments there?
Right.
Is there hope of me saying my piece and it being heard, or is it a bit silly for me to really spend my energy on that? You know, I've taken some people to task in certain arguments in different forums since the article went out, because I thought, okay, here's a place where I might be able to say my piece and it might be heard and we might get somewhere. Not like I might convince them, but, you know, maybe what they're saying, I can say this, and then they can say that, and we can have this kind of back and forth that's respectful, and I can start to see more, well, why does Larry think it's so important for me to do that over there, and why is Larry thinking this sort of way?
Right.
That's fine. I won't be going to Fox News to read the comments, because that's crazy making. I don't have time for that, because I have a baby, and a 5-year-old, and a husband, and a life, and,
right.
You know, so I guess...
I think, yeah,
it's not really an answer, but that's just where I'm at with it.
It's like, how much can you deal with? Like, how many hamburgers do I have to eat in order to have this fight? You know, I mean, I think how
many hamburgers do you have?
What? You talking
about hamburgers?
It takes.
Where are you going with that?
It takes energy to fight the battle. I can imagine a situation where it would be to our advantage to move to a more private location to cover up XYZ, because let's say we're traveling like you were, you know, you have a finite amount of energy.
Right. Yeah, I've done it before. I've gone to places.
A ton of energy fighting this battle because we had it to give.
Right. I've been in your situation. I've sat in a restaurant, turned my chair against the wall, just like, okay, I need privacy right now.
I don't have the energy to
deal with any of y'all.
Anything.
And whatever you're thinking or not thinking, or what I think you might be thinking, or anything that's going on there. Right. I'm just going to be over here in my quiet spot.
The mom at Anthropology went to the bathroom to feed her baby. In this moment with Andrea...
You didn't have the wherewithal in the moment to do that. And sometimes you don't. And I wonder...
Maybe didn't have...
Nobody's ever asked me to leave. And I've always said, like, I pity the person who does.
Right.
with what I know and my ability to articulate my feelings about those kinds of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the rage that might come up, I feel bad for them, but there might be moments where like I might not be able to do that, where I just didn't sleep at all the night before and I'm just so exhausted. I don't care. I went to a restaurant in Atlanta in the airport, and this really wonderful woman, Celie, she said, "Hey, welcome to the restaurant. Look at y'all, so cute. Look at your baby, so cute. Come on, why don't y'all come on, family?" And she asked me to come back. She was adorable, just super Southern. I loved it. And she said, "I'm gonna put y'all back here in case you want to feed your baby and have some privacy."
All right.
And I was like, Craig could see my wheels turning. He goes, "You don't even know how to take that. You don't know if she was saying, I want you to have privacy, or you should be hiding. You don't even know what to do with yourself right now, do you?" And I'm like, I don't. I'm just going to trust that she came from a place of love. So I start nursing him, and I have him in the sling, and she comes over, and she like is peering into my sling, and she goes, "Look at that baby. He's so happy. Look at him. Oh, I miss when I used to nurse my babies." And I was like, "Oh my God, I love you so much."
But it's so much about intention, right?
What was the intent?
It's all about the intention, yeah. I mean, you know, she's saying, hey, I'm going to give you the sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
thinking about you.
For you, so your baby can have a calm moment, and you can have a nice time, and you don't have to be worrying about what everybody else is thinking. Here's your sweet spot. Awesome.
Yeah, it was. I have no bad stories to share, and I hope I never do. You guys.
We thought we would.
You know, the thing is, you know, when he asked me, the first guy asked me, I thought, oh, is this really happening? Second guy started talking to me, I think, oh, is this really happening? Okay, get a grip. Sorry, it's really happening. This is really happening. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, Missouri, you know, in the news a lot lately for some severe unfairness. Am I in danger? I don't know. Are they going to call the police? I don't know. I start getting very nervous.
Nope.
And then, I don't know, actually, that was when I sent you that message. I actually thought, why am I not wearing a Can't Regulate This t-shirt right now? Because I kept thinking, can't regulate this. I just kept thinking it in my mind. I was like, can't regulate this. No.
I think my response to that was like, no shit, right?
Right. I just was like,
terrible answer.
Here I am thinking about, okay, you know, there are a lot of people who have worked really hard to get that law into place. There are a lot of people who have given a lot of their lives, maybe sacrificed a lot, so that I could be able to sit there and say, hey, there's a law. And what about the people they asked before me? And what about if I do this, will they ask more people? And I just thought, I can't get up. I just can't. I'm like, you know, all these things are going through my mind, and the only thing that comes out, and I'm thinking, here I am, like, I'm a pretty snarky person. I have got no snark. There was
nothing. You got nothing.
I was like, no, I'm not moving. Like a little robot.
The baby
I made friends with this wonderful woman. Her name's African Moon. She got asked on the bus to get off the bus because she was nursing her baby, and she's like, no. And she wasn't trying to make a stand. She wasn't thinking about a movement or anything, which she has ended up helping to make in afterwards. But at the time, she's just a mom who's got a bunch of other kids and a crap ton of stuff to take care of, and she's just trying to feed her baby on the bus. And somebody tells her that, she's like, no, what? I can't. No. And she stood up for herself. And it's funny because if you go back and you look at interviews with like Rosa Parks, she's like, I wasn't trying to spark a movement. I was just like, no. How about today? I wish we could go and like look at her day. Like, did she just have like a shit day?
Right.
Worst day ever.
Oh, no, not today.
Like her makeup melted in her bag and just like things like horrible like all day long, just one crappy shitty thing after another. And then somebody was like, I need you to move to the back of the bus, and she was like, no. Right? Because she said she never intended to be a hero or an inspiring person or anything. She was just, and that's what. And please forgive me, and anybody else who wants to get mad, forgive me for comparing the two, but it's the same damn thing. You're just a woman who said no. And I'm sorry, and if people don't believe it, too bad. We live in a patriarchy, and you dared to say no. So thank you for saying no, because my friend Jen's here. She's been spending the week caring for my children while I was out of town, and she's been, like, making me self-care. Just say no, Gina. I canceled 2 shows while she's been here because they didn't coincide with me resting and caring for my family. And I appreciate that. Just saying no can be such a powerful thing. Standing up for ourselves and self-care.
Or a person has done like entire TED Talks or written books about just saying
Power of no.
The power of no. It's a book.
Say no, damn it.
Seriously.
Well, thank you for saying no, and thank you for saying yes to me to do the interview. I know you guys had a big day today, and I know you have children, and I thank you so much, but I think it's important, and I'm glad that you think so too, and I love you both very much. You guys are awesome. You're a beautiful family, and just keep being awesome and saying no and yes whenever the hell it feels right.
Sometimes say no, other times say yes.
Yeah, whatever. Just say stuff or not.
Whoop. I love you guys. Have a great night. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope you join us for more chats on Progressive Parenting Network. Check out Joe Valley at empoweredpapa.com. Go like him on Facebook and tell him you think he's awesome. And tell Andrea, thank you for saying no and for giving us the strength to keep going and doing what we do, because we have to nurse our babies. We don't have to nurse our babies. If we need to, want to, whatever. We're moms, but we deserve the right to feel like we can, and thank you. Thank you guys for watching. I'm just in a really funky place as a nursing mama who hasn't had any sleep, so join me next time. I'll talk to you soon. I love you guys, and until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other.